You could say that our DNA portals are just a filter that are controlling everything that happens. We're actually projecting our entire universe. I asked everything I could think of about past lives and future lives. What would happen if I traveled at the speed of light for 49 billion years to the edge of our observable universe? Where would I be? And it said, at the center of your being. You're always at the center of the universe. And it's only as big as we need it to be for us to explore our creativity and healing ourselves. If we were a more expanded consciousness, I guess we have a bigger universe to explore.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soul Communication. I am happy to announce that on November 19th, we are having a special summit with beautiful influences in the space of consciousness and galactic history. The summit is called Reclaim Your Cosmic Power. It's actually part of the title of my book. So I'm really excited. It's been a dream come true. We have such amazing people like Tony Ghazi, who actually channeled it forward to my book, Debbie Solaris, Galactic historian and Akashic reader, Debbie Dashinger, Patricia Walls, and many other amazing speakers, and my co host, Nikki Hugh. So please look in the comments for link to sign up. It's also on my website, dianadivine.com. Welcoming you to the special Cosmic Summit. And today I am excited to continue conversations on consciousness, on DNA, on these rabbit holes that I love to explore and invite the guests that really understand nature of reality and constantly dig in. Paul Gorman is an author of many books. He's an architect. He uses pendulums for dowsing to connect with higher consciousness. He wrote over 13 books on manifesting, on secrets of the universe, and much more. Welcome, Paul, to the podcast.
Thank you, Deanna. Glad to be with you and to share my insights with your listeners.
Me too. I'm so happy to have you here. And I know you wrote many books. You've been on this journey for a long time, but where you're today, what excites you the most?
When I first started dowsing, I was just doing numbers and percentages for 10 years. And then I started getting words when a friend asked me about his girlfriend's health. And that was 20 years ago when I started. And then I never really wanted to speak with deceased people because I figured they'd be about as reliable as living people. But now I'm getting tons of messages from people who have died. I was surprised how clear they came through, their personalities and sense of humor. Lots of celebrities. I'm working on another book just of that, of Spirits Speak, with Cleopatra, John F. Kennedy, and the list goes on. Everybody I can think of. I got a very funny message this morning from Rodney Dangerfield. But mainly I was writing about manifesting because I wanted to know how can we live more effectively and not suffer. And so then I thought I was asking questions for myself, and I thought I would just make a book so other people can benefit from it.
Yeah, such an exciting place to be where the information just keeps on coming. And I know you and I talked about what we can focus on. And I love to talk about manifestation and I would love to talk about DNA. So, with that, let's just jump in. I know people love to know about manifestation. I write in my book about that manifestation is actually creation, that we can all create because we forgot that we're creative beings. So, from your perspective, when it comes to manifestations, what are the key things people need to know that you write in your books about?
Actually, after all my 1,500 pages of recent writings, I boiled it down to a very simple thing to keep in mind. But at the beginning of the book, it says, this book is about healing the mind. A healed mind can manifest what it wants, but a healed mind doesn't want for anything, so it manifests its desires. It's simple, but not easy. We're all manifesting all the time what we want and often what we do not want. But every moment we have a choice of choosing a godly thought or an ungodly thought. And if you have kind, loving, generous thoughts, you're actually connected to God. That is God mind expressing itself through you. It only exists in the present moment. And it's basically shutting off your left brain. And that's actually I find that the information that I need comes to me right before I need it for all these books. And someone sent me a link to a video called My Stroke of Insight by Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. It's at drjilltaylor.com. It's a TED Talk that's 18 minutes long. She was a neuroscientist and had a stroke. and her brain was alternating from her left brain to her right brain. It was fascinating. We have two totally different operating systems, and there's a very small connection in the middle. And my background is as an architect, and I think that's actually helped me and dowsing is doing that also. You're switching from your left brain to your right brain, accessing information. And that's what your left brain is, your linear logical timeline, judgment type of half of your brain. And your right side is connected to infinite consciousness or God and God mind. And when I was first learning to douse, a friend of mine said, ask your higher self, it won't lie to you. And then I found out when writing the book that your higher self is God mind. And it actually is the right side of your brain information that we're connected to. Then that went further, finding out how can I manifest specifically? And I've got lots of different information about, there's 5.5 quadrillion about DNA portals. They're a half a photon wide on one side and infinite on the other side. So when the portals are open, there's no separation from you and mind, you could say. There's different terms, universal consciousness or the creator. And actually, from my conversation with people who have died, they say, but they're surprised to find out they are God. They were just wearing a costume, believing they're not. And I was talking to a lady recently about one of my books, and she said, I was explaining how death is a decision, actually, not sometimes at the last moment, sometimes even before you're born. And she said, I'll die when God says it's time for you. And I thought to myself, you are God, so that's true. You will die when God decides for you, it's time for you to go. But about manifesting with portals, there's actually 500 million allowing abundance portals. And what I do, just using the pendulum, you could also use affirmations or...
And when you say portals, what do you mean by that?
They're like flowers, and I call them... When I was writing this, it said they're actually flowers of life, not flowers of life. They look like flowers, and they open in the light. And light is kind, loving, generous thoughts.
And when you say 500 million, how did you calculate there's that many? Is it 500 in total around the planet or 500 available for each person?
In your body, in your person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's approximate. And the amount of cells and DNA is constantly changing. But there's actually portals for just about anything you can imagine, the opening and closing them. And with our thoughts, or opening them with positive thoughts and closing them with negative thoughts. And actually what I've checked, that I know that the allowing abundance portals, like when I opened mine, this all I learned about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago about the allowing abundance portals, but I knew about the other portals, the portal system. And I opened mine 100% because they were like 18%. I can't remember what the number was.
How do you open yours? Is that through intent?
Yeah, my understanding, when you use a pendulum, that the spirit world has vibration and our physical world has motion, which requires time and space. So when you're using a pendulum, you're creating a motion, which sets up a vibration in the spirit world. And we can talk about how to heal with light also, which manifests in the physical world. But so when I did that allowing abundance, basically abundance is all around us. It's right up to everywhere around you in the whole universe. You just have to allow it. And most people block it, either with negative thinking or negative beliefs or just not ready for it. Or whatever their thought is, that other people are ever better than me, or that just keeps you in that limited belief system. So I opened mine 100%. The next day or so, I sent a client an invoice. It was because my career as architect. We got him a building permit for this catering location. And it was like $1,900 for what we did. My helper had to go up there, measure it, get him his permit. And I just charged him the cost because he's a good client. He said, I'm not paying it. Send me another invoice for $4,800. He said, it's not enough, $1,900. It's like, wow, that's super generous of you. And that'll come back to him 10 times over. Also.
Beautiful.
So my allowing abundance, I allowed it. My allowing rules wrote. So
abundance is an energy flow. That's, I think, what you're trying to say. In the quantum field of information, everything is available for us and it's infinite. Sometimes we think it's only for that person or for me, I only can receive as much. But if we allow, I think that's the key you're trying to say, if we allow this potentiality of receiving as much as we need, then it's exponential.
I think of us as a filter. You could say that our DNA portals are just a filter that are controlling everything that happens. We're actually projecting our entire universe, the entire universe. Because in my book, The Four Secrets of the Universe, I asked everything I could think of. And it was about past lives and future lives. And then I came from Andromeda. And I said, what would happen if I traveled at the speed of light for 49 billion years to the edge of our observable universe? Where would I be? And it said, at the center of your being. You're right back. You're always at the center of the universe. And it's only as big as we need it to be for us to explore our creativity and healing ourselves. If we were a more expanded consciousness, I guess we have a bigger universe to explore.
Yeah. So, as from the perspective of holographic reality, we are just a fractal of the universe. So, it's you inverse, like we are here, refraction of the universe. So, therefore, we can travel anywhere, right? There's no limitations. I know you were just saying that the portals are specific size, half photon wide. Why does that matter? Like for someone who's just listening to this, why the measurement matters, why we have DNA, and is all our DNA activated? Because there's a lot of talk about 12 strands of DNA and we only operate in two strands. What do you think about that, Paul?
I had gotten that there are a lot of invisible strands, whether it's 8 or 10, and we can see the two, that they 18% cannot be turned on. It's basically your hair color and eye color and things that you're not going to, maybe they are turned on, they can't be changed. And the others are more fluid that would open and close and create our reality. And what's interesting is that there are, if I say half a photon wide, because a photon, if it's a half photon wide, a photon of light is not going to get through. And so it's closed essentially. And so actually on the other side of the DNA that's infinite, they detect biophotons. That beautiful light comes out, blue, very faint.
Yeah.
That is actually God mind. The beautiful blue light, it's actually at the center of our hologram. It's almost like looking at the stars at night. And it occurred to me today when, that expression, wishing upon a star, that's all you need to do. Look at that beautiful blue light, make your wish. And if your wish turns into that blue light, it heals it and manifests in physical reality. And I can explain that.
Yeah. Tell us more about why blue, why
Well,
blue specifically works with manifestation.
I wrote about it in the book of manifesting. There's a particular frequency of blue magenta. It's 405 nanometer. And I can show you. Okay to show you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Actually, what I do now is I bought this from your Etsy site, this beautiful
The orb,
flower,
yes.
flower of life orb,
Quantum orb, so you excited in the particles as well.
because they say our heart master portal is a flower of. Here's what's interesting, that is the particular frequency of light at the center of our hologram. And it's what I like. It says 8 of our fingers send out light, but our 2 middle fingers receive light. That's actually why my guess is that's why they're longer. And our nails are actually lenses because the light travels through your fascia. And so it can get to all of your DNA and open your portals. And my cynical mind says that's what nail polish is to disempower women, actually. Keep the light getting
I love
greater
my
body.
nail polish. But I do agree with you because I do a lot of energy healing. And sometimes I feel like a conductor because, like, when I do Kundalini activation, I move my hands a lot and I see these threads of light around the body as well. And they it's like golden color the way I see them. And I use my hands and my fingers a lot in writing code and light language and pulling energy, and often I feel they're much longer, like the extension of my fingers is much wider. So like I actually feel what I'm doing. So I think that makes sense based on what you're explaining.
Actually, the entire EMF spectrum from brain waves to cosmic waves, it's all light. There's just a very narrow visible that our eyes can perceive. And like even in dowsing, that everything's a vibration. So we can hear vibrations of sound and we can feel heat from the sun. You can't actually see the heat, but so just all this invisible information. I also think of it as like a dog having 220 smell receptors in their nose. We have 5 million. So a dog picks up tons of invisible information, plus have other heightened senses.
Yeah, I love watching my cat because I know there's something in the room because the way she reacts to things, so what she hears, and obviously what she can see is different perception of reality than mine. So I always observe her because I know her sensorium is so much more on. And yeah, the pets, they're great teachers for us to know that there's much more than we can perceive.
Actually, they are great spiritual teachers to be focused on in the present moment. They don't have, or they have a left brain, right brain, but they're not like a human mind thinking, I'm going to get that guy for what he did. They don't think like they focus on the present moment. They are actually, and nature and animals are connected to God mind, because my messages say nothing in nature hates life or hates itself. Only humans can do that. So that's what goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. If you could either love or allow just about everything, you can only hate three things: what other people are doing, what other people have done, and what you have done. So if you allow other people to do what they're doing, no matter what century you live in, there's going to be some idiot tyrant be trying to ruin it for everybody. And if it ruins your day, and it ruins your day every day, it's going to ruin your whole life, even though you have no control over it. So if you allow, actually, the beauty is if you allow what they're doing and just focus on what you love, whether it's manifesting something with their hands, whether it's cooking or gardening or writing or anything, what you were here, what you chose to create in this lifetime, that's what the beauty is, that the things that you don't like actually go away. It seems like they're only showed up to test you, keep testing your patience. And it's happening to me lately that whether it's making all green lights at rush hour or whatever, it's just, you don't have to have those disturbances. What I do when I wake up in the morning is and this is from one of my messages, it says, imagine yourself inside your Merkaba. All life and even the earth has a Merkaba around it. Visualize it in that beautiful blue magenta and then program it and just say, I'll only allow love and peace into my Merkaba, into my energy field. And a lot of your friends disappear just like that. But I only allow goodness and peace into my Merkaba or family members. That's one thing. But the main thing about the light in your fingers, what I did, I bought one of these. This is on Amazon for $29, this particular frequency. They have others for detecting scorpions, but
I have this light because I use it for energy work as well.
okay.
Ultraviolet, right?
Yes, the 405 nanometer. And the messages said that is the frequency of God mind or the Godness frequency. And so what I do is I put my hands together, almost like biblical figures. You see them like this, and their head's actually glowing. Now I know what they were trying to tell us with some of that, but this creates a feedback loop with your light traveling through your
When you
body
put the
circuit.
hands together, yeah.
At least your middle fingers together.
Yeah, I often do that with pyramid, like you build a pyramid with your fingers.
Yeah, but actually what I'll do is shine the light on. I use your crystal ball now, and I get a kick out of when people say, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm like, I do.
For those interested in crystal balls, you can get them on my Etsy. I have special ones for the holidays. You can have one like the one that Paul has, and it's quantumized. So
It's awesome.
yeah,
I don't know how you could
and
possibly
it
make
creates
something like
harmony in the room. It usually sits on the LED stand. So
that.
I'll put
Actually,
in the notes where you can get that on my live.
actually,
Yeah.
it comes with this beautiful base, actually, that looks like that but it'll change color.
Yeah. Is that base and there's the wooden base.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that it came with that base. I don't know if you can even see the
Yeah,
colors
the
there.
colors keeps on changing, yeah. And if you get
Rainbow.
actually 2 orbs, you can set one here and one here, and they start interacting with each other. It creates a field.
Oh, no.
I just set up my friend lives next to a 5G tower. She just moved to a new apartment. She was asking me, she's like, "Yana, how can I harmonize the room? Because the bedroom is right there." So I was thinking about it, and I brought her 2 orbs, and I put on that one here on the nightstand, and they start interacting because they created quantum field. Sometimes I do 4, like if I'm doing a workshop in the room, orbs or other quantum lights that I have, and they all start interacting with each other. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. Yeah, I have a thing about EMFs and have a little background in environmental
Yeah.
exposures.
It's back to the noise I think that you were mentioning, right? That there's a lot of that external noise. And for us to connect and be harmonized in our DNA, in our biofield, we need to bring that back into the heart, into our body, into our presence and here now. So I know you were talking about sacred geometry, and I know you are just as excited about as I am. So what are the different geometrical angles and their attributes, and why are those important? So we're talking about fingers. why these certain geometries is something we need to know how to use.
The one I got is that 60-degree angle induces God mind. It says to me, it's similar to having this light. So a Merkaba is two tetrahedrons, which is all 60-degree angles, all the planes.
Right.
And even a bee's honeycomb is a hexagon, which, each slice of the pie there is 60-degree angle. And I understand it develops consciousness. And I understand structured water, the two H's and the O are at 60 degrees to each other. And actually, I've done some tests with that. It actually changes the volume of the water when it's structured. And I wrote a chapter about that. You can just run it through a piece of bamboo that's 19 inches long with river rock in it, and that'll energetically purify the water. And then you can program it yourself. But also, so about the 60-degree angles, there's a New Age shop near where I live where they do my workshops, and we built up tetrahedron that's about 6 feet tall out of copper pipes, and we go in with the light because it has white sides. And
like a pyramid, you mean like a copper pyramid you built?
Yep, a copper tetrahedron
Yeah,
that
we have
it
one
has
here too.
a meditation bolster, and people that have gone in have said I was just hearing this last week, my wish came true, my wish came true. But and I have a write-up and an affirmation that goes with that, but it's really amazing but I'll explain how you manifest with this light in your fingers. What I do, and the first I learned this, I just had a little card, Flower of Life, and it says, visualize, I shine the light on my fingers, the two fingers, and you don't even need a light. You can just do this in your mind. That's why I say wishing upon a star is good enough, actually. But if you visualize that your wish turning into the blue magenta light, it has the messages say that it heals in the spirit world and manifests in the physical world. For anything to manifest, it has to be healed, or basically a peaceful, loving type of wish.
And again, why blue? Why specifically that color?
Just that it says that's the frequency of God mind.
Just the frequency of God mind. Okay.
The godness frequency, they called it first. But so with the first day I did it, I think I just asked for prosperity or something. The next day I got 2 projects that were 10 times the size of my normal project. Actually, luckily one of them fell away because it was actually too much. But be careful what I wish for. Oh no, but a friend of mine got his job back. I told a few friends he got his job back. This is all in the first week that he had quit. Another one sold his 5 salons he'd been trying for 2 years to sell. And another one used it on her nephew who was about to be institutionalized for becoming violent because he was brain damaged at birth from lack of oxygen. And he was becoming violent and he was going to have to be institutionalized. But she used transference on let the light on his photo and it told him of that. And now there's just many more examples. Once a friend, he was trying to sell his house. This was a couple of years ago. And it was probably later in the fall. And he said, I'm thinking of taking it off the market. The interest rates have gone up and the kids are back at school. And I said, no, just visualize a blue bubble around your house and it attracts the perfect buyer at the perfect time. The next day, he got 2 offers. One of them was $40,000 over his asking price. And then he bought the house of his dreams and hasn't bought me lunch or anything yet. Like which
you should. Because what goes around comes around, right? So we have to share.
It reminded me of all these manifesting things. When I was writing the book, like I was saying, these things come to me as I was writing. I was talking about generosity coming back. And once I was in my messages, I was saying, when I see a homeless person asking for $1 at the corner, I'm going to give it to him. So that week I started, and there was one guy, no fee. And I'm like, next time you think you've got problems. And I stopped and talked to him a few times. But then that week, there was only like 3 or 4 times I saw somebody at the corner asking for money. I gave them, when they give them $1 or more, and they were like, oh, God bless you and stuff like that. And then this is all in the first few days. I found $100 bill on the seat of on the floor of my car. And I just had the car washed the weekend before. And it was talking about, my messages were saying about money comes and goes. I know how it goes, but it's amazing how it magically comes also. And then I thought, well, that's pretty good. And I'm usually carry $100 bills, so I know I didn't drop it. And the car had just been vacuumed and everything. So later in the week, I couldn't believe it. I dropped my glove between the seats and I pulled it up, another $100 bill between and this is a crisp new $100 bill. And the other one was still in my pocket. But there's a funny chapter about that because it's saying money does not only go, it also comes magically.
Mm.
And I can say that just generosity does come back 10 times over right away.
Yeah. I think that's an important point, that there needs to be this exchange of energy. Everything is in the flow of abundance. And so to continuously give is a good thing. It also teaches us compassion, but within boundaries, right? Like sometimes people have a problem of overgiving, and then they drain in their own cup and there's nothing left. So really
Exactly.
have, yeah, it's important to know balance. And I love your sharing about the $100 bill. That's like the frequency of miracles. Believe in that miracles are possible and manifestations are possible. And the green monster, as some people call it, the greenies, right? They're also part of this manifestation and exchange of energy. It's just one way of how they show up.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's just like thinking about the portal system, that it's not being afraid of the person or losing the dollar or and it not coming back opens my portals for the exchange, like you said, that I'm open for giving and receiving. And that works both ways. And it's very powerful. Yeah. So if I said I'm not going to give him, he looks dirty or whatever, that would just probably just shut portals. That's not a very nice, kind, loving, generous judgment you have, especially about a guy who has his feet blown off in Iraq or, that.
Yeah. He gave his part to protect us, to do whatever he signed up for.
You know what? That's exactly right. That's another important point, that our lifetime challenges were chosen as healing opportunities. So actually, if I see somebody that has severe challenges, I think, wow, what an advanced soul
Mhm.
to have chosen that lifetime with that handicap or whatever. Because when the book, I think it's The Four Secrets of the Universe, or maybe it's The Fifth Secret is the book after that. It's basically saying that the earth is, they say it's a hard school because it has physical and mental pain, that you have to be an advanced soul to come here because you got into the hard school.
Yeah, I call it the game of consciousness, and we picked the mode, hard mode. I think it came through in some soul level. We've trained to come here. Not everyone can be in this density, dropping from the high dimensional realms we're in, and then being here in this kind of matrix reality. It's challenging for many, and some of us really feel the density.
Yeah, it seems like when people, and I've got many dozens of stories, once they die, it's, as my father said, it's like a champagne bottle being, you burst out into the light. And the TV show, The Twilight Zone
Mhm.
with Rod Serling, he said, imagine your life is being held underwater for a full minute. And the moment you die, it's like you're being burst out of the water into the air. And who wants to go back? Hardly anybody.
So that's a great segue. What's your opinion about reincarnation cycle? There is this theory that we came here and we wanted to leave, but we couldn't. But finally, now we can. Like this quarantine zone that was here for a while on the soul level. From your experiences, as you talked to a lot of spirits on the other side, and the choice of incarnation, is that a choice at all?
Yep. My understanding is that we have free will all the time. Before we're born, we choose our family and our lifetime challenges and our timeline. Because I talked to someone who was in my class in architecture school. She died a few years ago. The thing about the earth is that they say you're allowed to have 5 incarnations at once because it's more efficient for your soul. I understand there's 5 of me right now. One's
So,
in
like
Alaska
a
anyway.
pod, so you've like your variants of you, not necessarily all males, Paul. So they can be.
It said similar, the same age. And actually, if one of us dies, that we're all gonna go, which is gonna be a weird coincidence, but we're so far apart that we would never likely ever. One's in and Mississippi, one is in Nigeria, one in China, one in North in Alaskan Inuit. But we all have similar features except
But
for
you don't know
genetic.
them. It's just more from.
No, it said I'd never likely ever meet them.
Mhm.
And hopefully they're advancing in consciousness and not dragging me down.
Like that's a soul pod, I think, what you describe it, right?
That sounds like me. No,
Yeah, but not all of us come in soul pods, or do we?
no, I understand we think in terms of past and future, but there isn't any time reference on the other side. So we could have an incarnation in the future. I understand my that I'm in our Andromeda now, having this incarnation actually in our, even though they're not in their same time zone, but kind of in the
Oh,
past.
I love the fact you just brought that up. because I communicate with my future parallel or whatever self in Andromeda. I go on the ship. I have participated in Andromedan council meetings. And so a lot of it is like kind of merge with her, or I am able to experience that Andromedan reality maybe through her in some ways. And it's just so fascinating because I'm always like, to your point, I get confused sometimes. Is this parallel? Is this the future? Because I can tell what's about to happen to the ship. So how would I know that? For the human mind, like really confusing.
You remind me, George Harrison's actually from Andromeda. Actually, the Andromedans on the Earth are very, I think, advanced people.
I
Not that
think
others aren't.
so. I've been Andromedan part of Andromedan Council as an Andromeda ambassador for a lot of my lifetimes. So I've traveled the galaxy and it's in my Akashic records. But I started in Lyra, actually. That was where my soul has started. And as the Galactic Lyran War started, like I was royalty in Lyra, and actually I was actually married to Draco Lion. So you'll read it in a book when you get to the
Wow.
Galactic History chapter. Later experiences that were more involved with Earth were actually when I was Andromedan ambassador. And just recently I had my Akashic records opened up where it was so fascinating because I do a lot of Earth grid work. And the woman could see that I was here before there was any civilization on Earth. And she saw me in my Andromedan form doing the grid work when we were just laying the foundation, like the blueprint of the grids. And then I went back to Sirius to report it to the council and then back to Andromedan council. So that was really huge for me because I was like, whoa, that finally makes sense why I'm so passionate about the grids.
Wow. I didn't get to that part yet, but I got one message about the Earth having a loving protection grid 30,000 years ago. It was installed when some visitors had left. But I understand humans have been here 300, more than 319,000.
It seems like we established it way before that in the beginning of when
Well,
we were thinking about seeding Earth.
different eras and different cycles.
Right.
I don't know if it's
This is
300,000 that was 30,000.
pre-Atlantis. Yeah, pre-Atlantis, pre-Lemuria. And then like later they were able to pull my Atlantean and Egyptian lifetimes. And a lot of them I remembered. Some of it is new that it's been really fun to when you pieces of the puzzle fill in, you're like, oh, that starts making sense. But we're so ancient. My point is, and Andromedan, of course. And as I write in my book, we're not even from this galaxy. We're not from Milky Way. We from Andromeda Galaxy and beyond. I'm not even from this universe. So it's just like the journey of the soul is it's evolving.
I my first book, and actually, I understand my lifetime agreements, when I started getting early messages, that I'm supposed to write 3 books of poetry and 2 books on how reality manifests itself, and then about mysteries, prophecies, and the hollow earth. And I'm like, I didn't know anything about the earth being hollow, and got all the info. I went all the way down the rabbit hole with
I
that one.
love maybe we can go a little bit into the Hollow Earth because I know just a bit because I had some interactions in Mount Shasta in Machu Picchu with the Agartha network and the beings who live in Telos. Is that some of the places you tapped into when you were
I was just asking about how were the pyramids built, because it's just a big mystery how these, I don't know how many 2 million stones that are 2.5 tons each, or maybe bigger than that. I said, how were they built? And it said beings from Mars light constructed them because they actually used them to moor their spacecraft. They landed in Mexico and in Egypt
Mhm.
at the time. And I was like, wow, okay. Then I asked all about that. They had 19 of these cigar-shaped craft. They were half a mile long in that millennium. And my understanding is that they didn't just fly here; they just went through dimensions and appeared there. And there's actually
they
they decided,
interdimensional so they can just
yeah,
cross over? Yeah.
they didn't stay. They breathed helium, like we have 18% oxygen or 20% oxygen, mostly nitrogen. And we have a little helium in the atmosphere, but they needed a lot more. And actually, helium is the second most abundant, other than hydrogen.
Do you think we
Universe.
had more helium here before? That's what I've been picking up. Like we are changing, talking about DNA, and obviously our DNA got manipulated too. But I believe back in those civilizations, we had more helium than I think the atmosphere for sure changed.
Probably. Yeah, it's the second most abundant. You wonder why it's not like the nitrogen is like 70 some percent. It should be probably helium.
Yeah.
But inside the Earth, I think there is a lot more. But what they did was they knew that Mars was going to be hit by a massive solar flare, so they were looking for another place to inhabit. And they came to Earth, and it said they eventually went to the constellation Taurus. So I'm having to look this stuff up. I didn't really know about that. And it's near Pleiades, I believe, and they went there. And some stayed behind as early
Aldebaran, you
pioneers.
mean? Like Taurus, Aldebaran, that whole area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some stayed behind. They wanted to be pioneers, kind of early American settlers. They wanted to rough it out. And so what they did was they went to the inner Earth and they hibernate. They could hibernate for 1,000 years at a time.
So are we talking about humanoids or
Well,
some other species?
they said there's 3 types of beings. There's human type beings, animal human hybrids, and light beings. And the animal human hybrids were actually very advanced because they, like I was saying about animals, they don't have that linear judgment side. So they're more advanced to have mostly an animal mind. And this is another thing that came up, that the light beings have actually deactivated the nuclear weapons on Earth, because what happened was, remember the protection grid around the Earth? When we set off the atom bombs in 1945, it blew holes in it, and a lot of demons came in. And they only go into people's minds when they're invited in. And there was like 100 demons that they infest the minds of 100,000 leaders of countries and large organizations. Like, no surprise there. But they have to be invited in, and they have those satanic type of ceremonies to
Yeah.
Bohemian Grove type of thing. So what happened was,
You think they're still here? Because from my experience, there was a lot of fallen angels here, and about linearly, I would say 6, 7 years ago, a lot of them kind of no longer here.
right. Yeah, I wrote about that. Even Lucifer himself left, went back to the far end of the Milky Way galaxy to an emptiness that cannot be described. He said, and he even said that demons are not hateful. It's humans. Humans are hateful. They just turn off the love in your mind and they'll amplify the hate. They call it hateful bliss for them. If someone has road rage, you're like, what in the world? Some demon, they say they're sit up there at the openings where the holes in the grid. And if they sense that kind of rage, they go rushing in and turn off the love in someone's brain, and they just love the hatefulness. That's what they said. But the being I
think we
was
all
speaking to,
experience that on some level, but I do hear you. Like, I was even driving this morning, and someone behind me was just so upset. I'm just like in my own little flow, and it was just really interesting to observe when someone just gets so worked up. Where are you rushing? Like, where are you trying to
yeah,
go? And this level of, I don't know, this level of energy, this frequency is just so low. Yes, we're waking up, and there's many of us waking up, but there's still so much of that energy here.
you put that blue bubble around your car, around your family, your house, your pets, everything, and just don't allow any disturbances, basically.
I think
Into
the key is not to get triggered. That is happening. You're always gonna have those people who are gonna just go crazy. And so I think it's important to stay in your center and your coherence and just move the lane and just watch it and send them love. I was just laughing. I was like, wow, guy, okay. So worked up. So much energy also that he being loosed with when he goes into that state.
always a big rush to get home and turn on the TV and do
No,
nothing,
this is in the
probably.
morning, so big
Well,
rush to
same
get to
thing.
work? I don't even know.
Do
That, like,
nothing.
lack of presence. So do you believe, like you said, a lot of them are no longer here? Because I think we also been doing a lot of work building these grids, like a lot of light
Yeah,
workers, everyone is putting in some work on the grids. I think they no longer can be here. Would
yeah,
you
exactly.
recommend?
They even said they had to shield themselves from the light. Uh, that's, I think, we're in this ascension process. And whether you are going to heal either in our lives or in the moment we die, we're going to be blasted back into the light. What's interesting about that book, because they're saying about the depopulating the earth, they thought humans have to go. The atom bombs prompted them into action out of their hibernation. And the Garden of Eden and they say there's luminous vegetation. The earth has a honeycombed interior. There's like these folks that are 4.5 miles apart, and they're actually under the southern part of Australia. And there's fresh water, and the Adam and Eve actually are some of the ones that came to the surface and that helped the others to survive. It said that their names were Hadim and Evelon, but anglicized as Adam and Eve. and they lived about in their mid-60s. They came from Mars originally when they were like 8 years old, and they were inside the Earth for 40 years, I believe. The vegetation in the Earth is luminous.
So when did the
And they,
Martians come here? Because I thought the Martians came around in the era of Atlantis, and that's why a lot of the Atlantean civilization actually got corrupted when the Martians and Maldekians, all these Orions came in with their more ego selves and started corrupting the civilization.
I'm not sure. I wrote a little bit about Atlantis. So I'm not sure if that was one or two eras before. My details on that ancient history is pretty sketchy. The main thing, they were at the very beginning of that book, it's telling me how life is a hologram. I'm like, and that they're saying there's been a decision that the population of the Earth has to be greatly reduced.
Mhm.
Not that they would kill us, but they call it mankind's folly to lead us into traps.
And that decision, is it their decision?
I think them and the spirit of the Earth.
There's just too many of us here.
I said, are there too many humans? They said, no, there's too many dissatisfied humans. And
Oh.
that's another really big topic because that is only a recent development. There's 5 energies adversely affecting humanity, which is envy, greed, decadence, and 2 others. But it only came to be with the mass media like 60, 70, 80 years ago, that people could see what other people had and they wanted it and they became dissatisfied with their own lives. And not only that, and it said it made them concerned with the unimportant things in life.
So do you think when we talk about depopulation, I'm thinking about the pandemic that get triggered and clear energies for those souls that are dissatisfied?
Yeah, and people, it seems like when people die, it's just an excuse or an opportunity, they say, when they leave. If I just have a different perspective on death, if I ran out and got hit by a big bus, people would say, oh, that's awful. What a tragic accident. No, you would say, wow, I wonder why Paul chose to leave so abruptly.
Mhm.
It was always my decision and choice, even though it looks like the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah, I believe there are exit portals, right? Because we're talking about portals and there's choices. So the soul just decides at that moment that it's time for it to go. It's not like it's happening to us, but for us, there's definitely some sort of choice that's being made.
They always say that? Either it was determined they were going to leave by that date or that there was a window of opportunity, or they
Mhm.
even John F. Kennedy said, and Martin Luther King, it would have been in the next few months, but that was a good opportunity because I could have skipped back in time and avoided that whole outcome or just been injured.
But then the impact, like with the Martin Luther King or Jeff Kennedy, like the impact they had because of the way they went, it was tremendous. It was like martyrdom a bit. What you
Yeah.
think?
And there was a big horror that humanity had to heal.
Yeah.
And that's what I say about predictions and prophecies too. They're usually negative because there's malignancies of mass consciousness that need to be born so they can die. The only way to get it out of the system is to detox it.
Detox it.
It's detoxing, it's actually pretty toxic.
How do we detox the planet right now? It's changing, of course, but there's still a lot of that toxicity. I see that at the workplace and other areas where that dissatisfaction and suffering that you and I just talked about is still very present. Like, how do we help those people?
By sending them light. In my understanding, I've written a lot in, I'll describe the 3 or 4 books that when you raise your vibration, it raises it for all. And actually, when you raise your vibration, it's like EMFs. The higher vibration keep the lower vibrations away. It's like a light only goes outward in one direction. And then, so basically, the shadows go away once the light is on. They fall away. They disappear. And it gets more complicated. Not complicated, but they say God mind is the only thing that actually exists, or love is the only, everything else is just an illusion. It's not real because it can't exist in God mind, not to mention that it's temporary. So the more you have kind, loving, generous thoughts, that's what's real. That's God mind. You could live in a state of grace if you could really train your mind to. And here's an interesting point. I noticed that the best people, it seems that they die young. That or it's just people around me but I had a brother-in-law who, one of those people, never complained, always enthusiastic, and never got involved in anything. And he died at heart failure at 52. But he was on a council of elders. But then I have a client, an African American man. He died 6 years ago or so. And he was one of those people too, that always present, always focused and enthusiastic and friendly, never a complaint. After he died, his wife told me, after 30 years of marriage, never heard a harsh word from him. I'm like, you gotta be kidding
So
me.
why do you think, Paul, they went so early? Did they choose to go so early?
It seems to me that he's actually on my council of elders. And that they just you don't have to live longer because you're that advanced. We're only here to learn lessons.
If we choose
That,
to, like, we can go sooner, basically.
yeah, that they just don't need it. And they come as teachers, I guess, as an example. But I couldn't believe that. Never a harsh word, growing up in an era of injustice and unfairness. And that really blows me. But I've known him for eternity because on my council of elders, he said, I know everything about you. You would not be proud.
Beautiful.
But that's also interesting too, how everybody's personality comes through in the messages, like even the sense of humor of George Carlin. I've got this long rant in one of the books, and Bob Hope. And
So what's your process as we like wrap up? If someone wants to connect to a spirit guide or their loved ones, can they do it? Because I believe we all have mediumship. Walk us through your process, Paul. How do you connect to these spirits on the other side?
it was a long process. I don't think I'm more advanced than anybody else, but I think I was able to access higher consciousness because I refused to ask personal questions about anybody unless they asked me to. So I did it mostly for healing and always positive stuff. I imagine if I started dabbling in gossip or doing things that were not healing, that wouldn't get very far. And actually, that kind of stuff would probably backfire. My first message I got, a friend asked me to check on his girlfriend's health, and I had never met her before. And I said, she's got a severe immune system challenge. Because I just checked on a scale from -10 to +10. She was like way into the left. -7 was her health. So she's got some serious immune system challenge. He said, she's in the GBMC, the Greater Baltimore Medical Center. Her liver function's off the charts. And I said, I'll check more when I get back. I have to go to a meeting or something. And so I wrote a couple of sentences, and it said, I never to do this because it was so tedious, but then like anything else, you get more proficient over time.
It's like automatic writing. You start writing.
Yeah, I could call it that. I'll get one letter at a time. Now I get 3 words. And it's funny because I never know that it's going to be that either funny or witty. Or even looking back now, I'm like, wow, I'm definitely not that articulate or not that wise. And I can't even remember most of what they've said, but it's interesting to read. But it said she has parasites from a cat bite 18 days ago. And I'm like, what do I do with this? I don't even know if she has a cat. What if she doesn't have a cat? That would be pretty embarrassing. Oh, so what? I'll be embarrassed if she doesn't have a cat. So I sent it to him, and he emailed back, and she got bitten really badly by one of her cats 3 weeks ago when we came back from Austria. But to my dismay, the doctors poo-pooed that idea, and they gave her prednisone, and she understands she took it for years, making it worse.
Wow.
Even though they give them the information. Now I know how Edgar Casey felt. Actually, I got a long message. I wrote a chapter from Edgar Casey on in the 5th Secret.
Yeah.
After the book of I wrote the book of.
What does Edgar Casey says about this reality right now for us? Any good messages?
Yes, a big warning about digital currencies or digital control grid kind of
I
thing.
can see that.
And he's
I
saying
think we know that it's scary. Like I can feel that too.
And that's the other thing. It doesn't matter who the political leaders are. That agenda is moving forward. And he's saying that life is going to be hell in 4.5 years because they're going to control your behavior.
Yeah.
And he said,
I already know a lot of our patterns just by searching Google and this and that. But now we're going to know all our transactions.
But he was saying that the worst thing most people actually are in favor of, like younger people probably would think, because like 98% of transactions now are electronic anyway. But it's going to be 100%. Only that'll be probably programmable, and they'll have total control to everything. They already know what we're thinking, so then they'll be able to control what you're doing.
What about AI? Has Edgar Casey said anything about AI?
Didn't ask about that, but I did read a good article last week saying, like, let's just say 10% of what AI produces is manure. And I've seen stuff where first of all, it doesn't agree with any of my conspiracy theories. So. But no, so it keeps drawing from that same pot, and there's 10% manure. So that manure pile keeps getting exponentially larger. And then whatever, 10 years, it's just going to be drawing from a pile of manure.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a whole separate topic. I'm also investigating. Yeah, I was just curious what your take on it was. Beautiful. I think we're going to wrap up and share with us, Paul, what's the best way people can get in touch with you? What's your website?
PaulJGormanArchitects.com, but that's my architectural website. I have a Facebook page where I post my new messages, like from Princess Diana and Dean Martin and all the new stuff that I'm going to be putting into the next book. A lot of really great insights from what they're saying. But my books are Mysteries, Prophecies, and the Hollow Earth, and then the Book of Manifesting, Spirit, Mind, Body, Flowing, Allowing, Receiving. Then the 4 Secrets of the Universe, Making the You in Universe, and the 5th secret, In the Universe That I Am. And I'm working on Spirit Speak. And I actually just completed a book of all the characters from The Wizard of Oz, because I've always loved how that's a perfect metaphor for life as a dream and going back to your soul group at the end. And I've got really interesting information from the director and all the actors and the supporting actors in the movie to publish that very soon.
Oh, wow.
It's called, and actually Garland gave me the title. It's called We're Off to See the Wizard. And I'll probably subtitle it in Toto too.
I love
actually.
Wizard of Oz. That's wonderful. Looking forward to that. Paul, as we finish our episode, any final words for our listeners on everything we just talked about? What's the final message?
The important thing to know is actually the love and creativity, despite all of our challenges, you do take it with you. You take it, it becomes entrained into your soul, the things that you've learned and gained from this lifetime. So I know we have hurdles all day. We can have hurdles all day, every day, but you can have them disappear. And you are manifesting every moment. I would say, think in terms of light and choosing a kind, loving, generous thought. And you'll notice your things start to change for you right away because you're projecting a kind, loving, generous universe. And all those hurdles will probably fall down. I shouldn't say probably, they will. And life should be effortless and fun. It could be a lighthearted comedy or it could be a horror movie. You choose what kind of movie you want to be in because you're the projector and the director and the actor. They talk about that to some of the actor type of.
Yeah, true. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I'm looking forward to see you all at the Reclaim Your Cosmic Power Summit. Next week on November 19th is a Scorpio new moon. So we're going to go deep into the rebirth process, into remembering our galactic history, on reclaiming our true powers. Everything that Paul and I talked about, there's so much to remember. So I'm looking forward to have you all on the summit. So sign up on my website, dianadivine.com. You'll see it right there on top menu, Cosmic Power Summit. And thank you, Paul, again for being here with us.
You're welcome. Thank you, Deanna, and everybody listening.
Thank you, and have a beautiful day.
Yeah, thank you.